We are back again with another one.
Back
We talking
again.
some, yeah, we talking some cat geckos today. So, Miss Monique, won't you go ahead and tell everybody who you are, what kind of stuff what kind of animals that you guys work with, and everything like that.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. My name is Monique. I'm the owner and operator at Evolver Reptiles. I had turtles when I was growing up as a kid, but I didn't get into reptiles until I met my husband. And he was all into like king snakes and lizards, and he had turtles and stuff like that. And then we got married, and we lived in Florida at the time, and we got a whole bunch of reptiles because you can keep them outside. Day geckos, blue-tongued skinks, anything that you could imagine we had. And so we both were working full-time jobs in the service industry. And one day we just decided that we had such a passion for our reptiles that we wanted to start our own business. So in 2015, we started Evolver Reptiles, and we didn't have our first sales until 2020. Within that 5 years, we wanted to really do a lot of research and development and acquire our breeder animals from all over the United States and Canada. And now we actually live in Virginia because we were running out of space in Florida when we quit our jobs in 2020. And now we actually solely work out of our home, and we converted our garage into a tropical reptile center. And we also use our second
Nice.
floor for a dedicated gecko room and a desert species room.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely. So, you've been full time. Like, this is only thing that you do since like what you said, like 2015 or so,
2020.
2020.
2020. Okay, all
Yeah.
right. Nice, nice. So
Yeah.
like right when that COVID stuff happened, everybody's chilling at home. You're like, no, we're not going back to work. We're gonna
No,
just do this. I
no.
kind of wish I did
We
that
took
too.
that 5 years to really do a detailed business plan to make sure that this was going to
Nice.
work.
Oh,
So,
Very smart. Very
very
smart.
smart.
Very
Yeah.
smart.
Def-
So it was probably an easy transition. And that was going to be my question. Like, how hard was it for you guys to be like, this is it, this is what we're doing, and just run with it? But you guys came up with a plan. That's that's probably the only way to do it successfully is to come up with a strategized plan, build your inventory, build your name, build your social status, if you will, and then hit the ball running, you know? Very
yeah.
nice. What
okay.
made you decide on species? What did you guys just come together, and what species do you work with all together? And what made you settle on those species?
Well, we mainly work with the crested geckos and blue tongue skinks, and we kind of wanted to get stuff that we enjoy working with. Like we've seen a lot of rare geckos when we first started out. That's how I found the cat geckos. I actually was looking through fauna classifieds and found those.
Mm,
But yeah, we mainly work with like a lot of the gecko species, and we have a couple hognose snakes, but we don't have any other. One ball python, that's our pet snake. But yeah,
nice.
we wanted to work with something like more rare species that's not
Very
as
Nice.
nice.
common.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. Yeah. So, like I said, we're talking about cat geckos today. Can you kind of tell us the when did they start getting introduced into the pet trade, and like, so how did they start really getting? Because I've started to notice that they really are getting pretty popular. It's just that people don't have that great information to really care for them, and essentially that's why we're doing this podcast right now, so we can get some information out to the public, so people can know what to do and know to keep their geckos pretty much alive. Because I've heard nightmare stories of just crazy stuff. So, so how did they? When did they first get into the pet trade?
Well, I found them through fauna classifieds, just scrolling through back in like 20, I think it was like 2018 is when I
Mhm.
first found the cat geckos. And I was like, wow, these are pretty interesting. They look kind of fascinating. And I was a cat person, so I'm like, oh, a cat gecko, that's pretty interesting. So I
Yeah.
went on Google and I was trying to Google their scientific name, and I couldn't really find anything. There was one forum, it's called Geckos Unlimited. They
Mhm.
started talking about them back in the year 2000s. And so I researched through that whole forum and was looking at through stuff. So um, I went and I acquired 4 wild-caught females and 2 wild-caught males from different sources. And everyone's like, oh, well, you know, when you get wild-caught stuff in, they come with full of parasites and they're emancipated. Mine actually came in really good. Healthy adults. My females were adults, and my 2 males were adults as well. And I have all of them to this day except for 1 female.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, back in the 2000s is when I guess they were first acquired. There was one importer. His name was Marcus. He was from AF Exotics. I don't think he is in the reptile business anymore, but he was the main breeder and importer that brought them in from Malaysia, and everyone always came to him to talk about the cat geckos.
Okay. Are they still being imported from Malaysia? Is Malaysia still sending them in?
They are from only I've heard from the Cameron Highlands region. But there's certain, I guess, locales that you cannot import, which are the silver eyes. They're from the Johor, the southern part of Malaysia. They're restricted and you can't get them anymore. But you can get the Borneo ones as well, which is a totally different like subspecies of cat geckos.
I didn't really even know there was subspecies. That's awesome.
Yeah. But the
Yeah, I'll
ones that
say, how many are there of the like subspecies or different species? Because I always see like as like dorsalis, and then there's another one, right? I just can't remember the name.
The Ascalobotes felinus is the main one. That's it's from the Cameron Highlands. That's the one that's been mostly imported in the U.S. And then there's also the Johor, which is the silver-eyed, and that's so rare. If I can have those, I'd be so happy. They have like these bright silver eyes, but they have all the other markings of the felinus. But no one is working with them in the U.S. that I know of. I think only one person has them in Europe, and I've already contacted him, and he will not sell any to me. They're just his pets.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
And then there's the Aliscalobotes dorsalis, and they're a different subspecies because they're a lot smaller. They're different in appearance, and they have green eyes. The felinus have the black eyes. So they're from Borneo, which is like a different island underneath Malaysia. So those are the 3 main locales that I know
of. Go ahead, Ant.
No, I'm just. Did you when you acquired yours? Was it directly from the importer, or was it someone that had them working with them and then sent them to you? Or yours came right from Malaysia.
No, they weren't from the importer. They were from someone that had them imported to them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Awesome. And you said that they were fine. Did you do anything to treat them when you got them? Did you do anything like panicure, or did you do anything other than quarantine them? Or
I had them all in 4 separate. I had them all in separate enclosures for a whole year. Because I still didn't know anything about them, and I didn't want to start breeding until I had more knowledge on them. So I kind of just had them quarantined for a whole year, observed them, how they were doing, and as I researched them, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start pairing them together. And after a few months, I had my first set of hatchlings.
Wow, that's fast. So in the hobby today, like say someone like me was going to go out and buy, cat geckos. What's the probability that someone, how do I say this? Someone that doesn't know much about them, that just wants cat geckos. What's the probability of them getting captive geckos versus wild caught geckos? Like how many? Damn, I don't know how to say this the right way, but like what's the I don't want to say percentages or saturation rate, but how prevalent are captive species now? How easy is it for someone to get captive species? Or people that want to get into them still going to be like hard pressed to get wild caughts?
As far as I know, myself and maybe 2 other breeders are captive bred.
Really.
Yeah.
So that means there's probably a good amount of wild caught. Like if you're going and finding them, they're wild caught.
Yeah, and like if you look on Morph Market, you'll see a lot of wild caught, and I think they usually have they import them in the springtime, and that when you'll see a whole bunch of them listed everywhere. But like Underground Reptiles and all the other main places will have all them imported during the springtime. But yeah,
Interesting. Any reason why? Do you know?
I don't know why. I
Spring.
know some people say that it's hard for them to breed, but I don't have a hard time breeding them. I think it's just on like the steps that you have to take to make sure that they're successful at breeding. But yeah, I've heard a lot of people have a hard time getting the eggs to hatch.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing as well. So let's go ahead and talk about in captivity. What's the ideal habitat setup for them? Like, what kind of things are we trying to do inside that enclosure to make them feel as comfortable as possible, and so they're not easily stressed out?
Well, if you're going to do a breeding pair, I would say like a 18 by 18 by 24 is a good size to house two of them together. If you just want one, and the females are larger than the males, so I would put the females in an 18 by 18 as well, and then a male can go in a 12 by 12 by 18 setup. And bioactive is a must for these guys, but you can also do partial bioactive. A paper towel, I wouldn't use that as a substrate. The females love to dig and burrow their eggs, so they need to have soil, and also the soil helps with the humidity as well, because the humidity is a must with these guys as well. But yeah, I usually have partial bioactive on mine. So I have a mixture of cocoa fiber, topsoil, and I have leaf litter, and I mix it all together. And then cork bark for them, sticks, lots of thin sticks that they like to climb on. And then I have fake plants and a pothos plant in each one. So it's semi-bioactive. You can do full bioactive, but they don't need any UVB because they're 100% nocturnal. They will not ever come out during the day.
Nice.
But if you have live plants, you could put like a light in there if you want.
Okay. And definitely no heat for these ones.
No heat. They like it really cold.
Okay.
I have it set like room temperature at night. I would probably set it at 69, but 75 to 80 during the day. 80 is the highest I would go with these guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of keeping it almost Europlatus like with the temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I keep them in the same room as my crested geckos, but I'm kind of thinking of moving them into a separate room next year and making a little bit cooler for them.
Okay.
Since it was kind of hot here this summer, I felt like I didn't get a lot of eggs from them this year.
Okay. Generally, how many clutches are you getting from them?
I have 4 breeder females, and they lay 2 eggs every 60 days, kind of like chihuahuas. And then the eggs are like 120 days to hatch.
Oh, wow.
That's like chihuahua.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a new cow right there.
Yeah.
Are they highly calcified?
Yeah, the eggs are the eggs come out fine. The females will they'll lay in the same spot every other month. I'll find the 2 eggs in the same spot under the same hide, and they come out dark because they're mixed up in the soil. And then I use an 8-ounce deli cup, and I use Repashy Super Hatch, and it works all the time. 99% success rate in hatching them. Using that, and I just keep them in a dark closet at room temperature 75 to 72, and they hatch out fine for me. I don't really have to spray the deli cup maybe once a month or so. But a lot of people say they have a hard time with the eggs drowning because I think they're using perlite, or they're using a different kind of incubation medium. I think Pangea is like the best one to use. I use that for all my geckos as well.
Okay, yeah. Same here. I use that for most of my tropical stuff. I use the hatch right. For my arid stuff, I'm using just a regular hatch right. No, I said I've actually done the Pangea hatch for my Stropharis as well, but I like the hatch right for them. It's already done for you. Just put it in there, boom. Don't have to water or anything. It's perfect. But like I said, that Pangea hatch, that's perfect too, because you can tell when it gets dry. And all you can do is just squirt the side of the deli cup or whatever you're using, so you're not splashing on the eggs, and then it changes back to, and then it looks hydrated again. It's perfect. I like that stuff too.
Yeah,
Yes,
a lot of people. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely not. You go ahead.
A lot of people say they use like vermiculite, and because I think you use vermiculite for snake eggs.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've tried that once, and my whole clutch was just ruined. So
Oh wow.
I think your vermiculite is just too wet, and if you don't have the proper ratio, you can't control it, and it's just not
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Have you ever tried? I watched. I can't say I talked to him, but I was checking some over the years. I've been checking out, cat geckos. But have you ever seen or tried suspended incubation, like where you put them in a separate cup inside of something like that? Like how they do. What would they incubate like that, Jay? Like I guess certain species of Europlatus,
Monitors.
so they'll take the hatch right, and then they'll put it in a little cup in dry medium, and then they put that dry cup in wet
Oh, you talking
medium.
about that way? Okay. All right. Yeah.
And I saw
Yeah,
somebody
I've never
incubating cat
tried
eggs
that.
like that. I don't know what the hell was going on, but they were incubating like a Europlatus egg. I was wondering, I think the topic on the post was how complicated it was to hatch the things, but not that I
Yeah,
know.
I've never tried that.
Hmm.
I'll never use anything but Repashy or Pangea Super
Find
Hatch.
something that works, stick to it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep using it until it fails on you, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what kind of so I'm guessing they're insectivores, right?
Yes, 100% insectivores. I feed them mainly crickets and orange isopods, and the blue powder orange or isopods are the best ones to give to them because they're soft bodied, and
Okay.
they like clams, snails,
Oh wow.
wax worms, and dubia roaches. And they don't like to be
Well,
tongue fed, so I just kind of throw the crickets in there every couple days, and they'll hunt for them.
nice. Very
So for
cool.
these, you said clams, right?
I'm not clams. I'm sorry. It meant snails.
Okay.
Oh,
I heard clams for a hot second. Like, really?
Just snails.
I heard
Yeah.
the snail. I heard the snails as well. I was like, snails ankle. That's different, but okay. All right. So, where do you source your snails from?
I haven't used snails yet, but I know a couple
Okay.
breeders that do. So I was
Okay.
thinking of trying to use them next year because they're a good source of calcium. You just throw them in there, and but yeah, I know a couple people that use them.
I do
Okay.
So
myself. I raise them, breed two different species, and feed two different species myself. I can't say that I've noticed anything crazy in my animals, but I've never had any animals to really, any issues to really deal with as far as calcium. I feed them to my chihuahuas. I feed them to my lychees. I feed them to, I don't want to say cresteds because I'd be lying. I don't. I haven't. But I feed them to a lot of my new cow stuff, and they destroy them. They smash them. I feed glass snails and I feed milk snails. Milk snails get a little bigger, but I mean they get a lot bigger than the glass snails. But I feed them while they're smaller.
mhm,
Think a varied diet with all of these geckos. Most predatory geckos, if not all of them, are obviously opportunists, right? Like they don't have a picky diet. They're gonna eat whatever comes their way, whatever crawls up their tree trunk and passes their direction. They're gonna eat. And I think that the key to that, especially with picky geckos, is to, like you said, study and learn their environment, learn their natural environment. Go on iNaturalist, look at every bug, every insect, snail, every invertebrate that lives in these things' range, and just assume that anything that gets to a certain size is going to be prey on this thing's
mhm.
menu. But
Yeah.
they're worth your while if you can find them. People talk a lot about parasite loads in snails, but I'm a big advocate for gut bacteria. I think a lot of these species have things in their gut to combat a lot of these things they would encounter in the wild regardless. And like I said, I've never experienced a parasite in ever with 200 geckos and feeding them just about anything I get my hands on. I fed praying mantises off today. I found a couple praying mantises I want to feed into my Leachianas today, and parasites never crossed my mind. But sorry,
Well, the thing with cat geckos is they are very sensitive to minerals.
really,
So
you're a
you
platypus
have to
again?
use reverse osmosis water when misting them. They will get bladder stones if they have too much calcium in their
Really?
system. Yeah.
Okay. That's the one thing I did hear about them too. You have to use like RO water or just stuff without any kind of uh well, let me say we can't you definitely can't use tap water.
No.
Yeah. So I was that with your feeders though, what kind of gut loads are you doing with them? Like or yeah, what kind of gut loads are you doing with those?
So my crickets, I was growing my own crickets, and
Oh
it's like
wow. That
really super
that's
hard
a
to do.
pain.
Yeah, it is a pain. I was gonna try to start it again, hopefully after winter again, just to get it. But I get all my crickets from Gans Crickets, and then I gut load them with Rapashi Super Gut Loader, and I give them to that and carrots and celery, and then I feed them off that way. But
Right. Nice.
I don't dust any of the crickets, because if they get too much calcium, then they get the bladder stones. Now the
Mhm.
difference, sometimes they look like the urates, and the bladder stones are just the same color as urates, but the urates, of course, they turn into powder when you crush them. A bladder
Yeah.
stone is like the size of a tic tac, and sometimes it can get really big, especially in the females, and they can't pass them. And if they can't pass the bladder stones, then your cat gecko will not recover. And I've lost a couple because of overcalcifying. So when I'm in the breeding season, I put the males only with the females for just a month. And then when I take the males out, I can give the females more calcium after she lays her eggs.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what about like multivitamins or anything? They don't get any of those either?
Yeah, I use calcium, Repashy Calcium Plus, but I
Okay.
use the low calcium or the low vitamin D one for
Okay.
them. But that's only once a month, so I'll use it in the first of the month. That way I remember that they have the vitamins and the minerals. But
Okay.
I don't need to dust all the time, because that's what causes the
Those
bladder
issues.
stone.
Okay.
And they're huge. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like if you see the females, you can see through them that they're carrying 2 eggs. And sometimes you can see the bladder stones in there. I'm like, oh, please, I hope you can pass them, because it's unfortunate when they can't.
Yeah.
So
So do you think that's like the hesitation with people wanting to get into cat geckos?
I think so. I think the minerals is a big thing, and also the humidity, like using the RO water. And I
Hmm.
use RO water for all my reptiles. I don't use any
Yeah.
tap water at all, which I think everyone should. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think they're kind of scared when they hear that if they kind of over supplement, that they're gonna lose their cat gecko. And some of them can pass them. It just depends. So, but yeah, they're
Yeah. I
like
think.
huge.
Yeah. I just think because people are so used to I gotta dust my food every feeding, boom, 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 and then toss the stuff in. So yeah, I guess I can understand why people will be kind of hesitant on picking them up just because they're so used to every feeding. Got to throw my multivitamin on there or the calcium or whatever. Like I said, I do the not the Repashy, the Arcadia one. So I do
Okay.
like Earth Pro A, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then the week next I do like calcium on one day and then Earth Pro A, and then some revitalized low D3. So probably with them, I'll probably do like Earth Pro A once, and then calcium maybe once, and then like you said, after she drops eggs, give her some
Mhm.
calcium to go ahead and you know get all that calcium she just lost from those eggs. How hard are the shells?
The the
The
calciums.
eggs, the egg
Oh, the
shells.
egg. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're kind of soft.
Okay.
Yeah. You can tell when they're fertile, like I can just tell the difference, even though you can't see them because she digs in the dirt. So they're like
Hmm.
really dark and brown when they come out, but you can tell that they're fertile. And the good thing is, if you're interbreeding them, you only have to keep the male in with the female for like a month and then take them out, because the female can retain sperm for up to a whole year.
Damn. Okay. Nice.
And
another
one day
common gecko.
I had a female that I didn't breed for a whole year after she was bred the previous year. And one day I found 2 babies in the enclosure that just hatched from 2 eggs. I was like, how did
Yeah.
this even happen? And I guess
Okay.
they were in there for a while, but the females don't bother the babies. I'm not sure how the males would react if the babies hatched in there, but yeah, I took them out right away, and I was like, well, this is really cool that they can retain the sperm, so I don't need to leave the male in there that long.
Nice.
Like crested geckos, kind of, right? I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
actually, I know quite a few species where people do that. They'll introduce the male and get eggs, fertile eggs all year.
Now
Interesting.
that's for the Aphelinus, you could take the males out. I took my Borneo one, my Dorsalis male out, and I put him in a separate enclosure, and he was walking around and did this weird alarm sound I've never heard ever. And I was observing him. I was like, what are you doing? And he would not stop, and it was like stressing me out. I didn't want to stress him out. So I took him out and put him right back into the female's enclosure, and he stopped. And I was like, wow, like he knew his territory and he didn't want to go into a different enclosure. So it's like
Yeah.
they're kind of like just like cats, because cats get territorial. And it was like,
Yeah.
wow, he knew exactly that he wasn't in the same spot like where he was. So I just leave him in there with her, and I guess they're fine. But that's how you can tell they're different subspecies. They're not the same as the Felines.
Interesting. I want to just rewind a little bit to the beginning of the conversation. What do you know exactly about the species in the wild? Like what can you teach us about natural ranges, maybe habitats, prey? I think it would help a lot of us understand like the RO water and the minerals, and if we knew a little bit about the back story of the animal, like where they, what type of environments they're living in, trees, rocks, if you could just elaborate a little bit on what you know about them in the wild.
Yeah, so they come from Southeast Asia. You'll mainly see them in Malaysia and Singapore and Cambodia, and they're in the montane forests, in the low area, elevation areas where there's tons of streams and waterfalls. And so they hang out in like a certain forest area there, and I feel like that's where they drink in the fresh water. So that's why they can't probably handle the minerals, because they're just drinking like fresh water from the streams there. Yeah. And it's really cold. It rains 100% of the time there. So that's why humidity is very important with these guys, because in the wild, they get a rainstorm every single day. So I usually only miss my cat geckos at night, and I give them a full like downpour where the humidity will be like 90%. And then I don't miss them the rest of the day. Like throughout the day, it's kind of like at 60%. But you kind of want to wait until they're up at night, and then that way they can drink water, because you want to make sure that they're drinking the water, because that can cause kidney disease if they don't drink enough and they're dehydrated as well. And I have a small water dish in all the enclosures, but I never see them drink out of it. So I'm sure in the wild that they're just drinking the water droplets off the plants. And lots of ferns, just forest areas where they were found. And Marcus, who is the importer from the early 2000s, is the only one that I know of that went to Malaysia to study these guys. And he wrote a whole care sheet under the Geckos Unlimited forum. So he's got the most experience with them.
I'll post those in the show notes.
Yeah, we can link that, right, Jay? Absolutely. That'd be awesome to get on here. I'm gonna read that.
I'll post it in the show notes after this. All right. So let's what I was about to add. All right. So, well, besides the whole RO thing, is there any other common health issues with them?
Not that I know of. I've hatched out 12 my first year, and I'm almost at 100 since I started breeding these cat geckos. I've only lost a couple. The main thing is, I would say, is to keep the humidity up, because these guys shed, and if they partially shed and they can't get all of their shed off, is when they would shut down.
Okay. So do they eat their shed?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I
think it's only Aussie geckos that don't eat their shed. Like my geckos, my Aussie geckos, everywhere. I just grab all the sheds and throw it into I got like a couple isopod bins. I just throw them in there. But
I didn't
man,
know that. I saw a shed in my Nephurus tank, and I'm like, why isn't she eating this? Like, I thought there was
they
something wrong with it.
never
That's
eat it.
crazy. I
No,
swear to
they
God, I
never
could have
eat
said
it.
nothing to nobody. I was like, dude, she doesn't. Why is there skin all over this tank? What's wrong with her? Oh man, I had no idea. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I caught one of mine shedding when I came in at night, and I recorded it, and it ate its full shed
Awesome.
off.
Oh,
Awesome.
nice.
But yeah.
So before breeding season starts, right? So are you putting them through a brumation or anything?
No, I don't put them through brumation. I usually start breeding season January through September.
Okay.
But I just kind of just put the males in the first of the year, and then I take them out and don't put them in together for the rest of the year, because the
Okay.
females will
So
continue to lay eggs every 90
yeah.
days.
Okay. So it's
Is
not
that
like, all
common?
right. Oh, go ahead.
Is
Go
that
ahead.
common? Is that common practice, or is it just something you do to be on the safe side? Is there like documented reasons or issues with the males causing problems, or is it just a personal preference that you separate them?
It's just a personal preference. That way I can give the females more calcium. Because
Okay,
if I have the male in there and I'm
Mhm.
giving them the same amount of calcium as the females, then that's how the males have more of the bladder stones.
Makes sense.
The
Okay.
Okay,
females need,
Yeah.
yeah, the females need more calcium while they're producing the eggs. So if I take the males out, I could just feed them all the same.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So with babies, how are you setting those up to rear them to make sure they're nice and healthy and ready to ready to post them on? Like when I look at Morph Market, I always see your guys and stuff. Boom, 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 when you have geckos ready, it's crazy. I just see cat gecko, cat gecko, cat gecko, and then if I go to like the day gecko, I think I've seen you guys post day geckos as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for the babies, what are you doing to keep them going so you can go ahead and post those?
So the babies are same setup as the adults. They just are in a 6-quart tub, and I use the same substrate. I put in a piece of cork bark. I put in one of those mini snake black hides in there, and a
Hmm.
stick and a fake plant, and I give them isopods and springtails for like the first week.
Okay.
And I spray it down really good, and I keep them on a separate shelf. Um, but yeah, the babies are pretty good. I give them small like pinhead crickets, and I just kind of change the size as they grow up. And they're
Hmm.
kind of slow growers, the cat geckos. So in 6 months they'll get to medium size. For breeder size, the females, I don't breed them until like they're 2 years old, and they're about 26 to 28 grams. And then the males are about 14 to 18 grams.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
ask. It's a hard thing for us. Not everybody weighs geckos. It's kind of like a new cow thing. So we'll ask people sometimes, I'll just ask somebody for a weight for just a reference point, like how much does this species weigh? And they're like, I don't weigh them, I don't, that, but that's cool that you work with crested geckos, so you do weigh them. What is a hatchling for reference purposes? What does a hatchling hatch out about? How much weight? How much do you think a hatchling weighs?
They're about 2 grams.
They are, okay.
Yeah, and if they incubate longer than 120 days, then they come out like maybe 3 grams. So I kind of like them when
Okay.
they're a little bit longer, because they come out a little bit bigger, healthier.
Okay.
Awesome. I find that with crested geckos too. I've done lots of little experiments. People say that I'm not debating it, but temperatures and hatch dates, will change the structure of the gecko. And to me personally, I'm like, well, the longer they incubate, naturally, the longer and bigger they're going to be. They're growing in the egg. But if you take that same gecko that hatched out at 60 days and you compare his weight at 120 days, another 60 outside of the egg, he's technically going to be bigger than the gecko that was in the egg for 120 days altogether. So it's cool observation that you've made. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, so you said you started off with wild caught stuff, right? So, what were your steps for quarantine for them? 'Cause like you said, you got like 2 rooms. So what do you do for your quarantine stuff?
That's been part for a year, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when we lived in Florida is when I first got them, and I used the Sterilite tubs. I
Hmm.
think they're 36 quart. or 56 cord, I don't remember. And I set those all up individually for the wild caught ones because I didn't want, and I had them in a separate room, so I didn't want to put them in with my crested geckos since they were wild
Yeah,
caught, just in case they did have parasites.
absolutely.
And I just observed them for like, a year, and they were healthy coming in, and they ate and they drank, and I just set them up the same as I would a bioactive tank with the soil at the bottom and a fake plant and a stick for them to climb up on. And it worked out. It worked out fine. And then as soon as I was like, hey, they're doing great, I'm gonna set up a bunch of tanks, Exoterras, the 18 by 18 by 24s, and I set them all up, put them in there, and that's where they are right now. So I only use the Sterilite tubs for the babies.
Okay.
Nice. You had mentioned when you got them, were they juveniles or babies when you got them wild caught, or were they
They were
adults?
full-size adults.
Did any of your females lay eggs from you? Did any of them come in gravid or by any chance?
I had one that came in gravid, and I didn't do anything with the eggs because I didn't really know at the time. But I'm sure they were probably fertile from whenever they were brought in.
Yeah.
I think that's super cool. You know, people that get wild species, like this thing was really copulated. Like they really, like the babies were made in the wild. Like it's those interesting things.
So for like when you were quarantined, was did you see any kinds of signs of stress or illness? Because you said you did lose one, right?
I haven't lost any except I
Oh, okay.
lost.
The female, right?
The one. Yeah, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I lost her.
Oh, okay. So way past your core.
Yeah, she's from
Okay.
2016, so she lived a long time.
You think it was old age? How long are these guys living for?
If you look it up, it says like 10 years, but I haven't known anyone that had them for 10 years. I'd say more like 6 or 7.
Short-lived species.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Well, Dinah asked this
So
question. It seemed like a. Well, I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
go ahead.
You seem like a pretty observant person, and every time I look at these geckos, I ask myself, what do they do with these tails? Have you observed any behaviors of any sort that encompass this tail? Are they using this tail to do anything? Courting, hunting? What do they do with this tail?
They're just like a normal tail, but it's reference to a cat if you want, because they wrap around their tail when they're sleeping.
Okay.
And they're semi-arboreal, so they'll sleep on the ground during the day, and you'll see their tail wrap around them. If you like pick up their little hide, they look so cute.
Oh, really? Wrap right around themselves?
Yeah, and one of the defense modes, if you ever see them get mad, they'll open their mouth like a cat and also lift their tail up like cats do.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Do
they
they
can
arch their
drop.
backs and everything like that too?
Yep, just like
Okay.
cats
Yeah.
do. And they can drop their tail, but it regrows back. It just becomes like a fatter tail, like I guess leopard geckos or fat tails.
Okay.
They kind of just grow like bigger. Yeah.
I've always wondered, like I'll commonly say, I've like a broken record. I mean, Mother Nature does nothing by accident, and the tail has to be for something, right? Like everything when we look at these, just geckos in general, species of reptiles in general, it's like everything has a purpose, whether we know it or we don't know it. It's either camouflage, defense, courting, something. And again, I hate to repeat myself, but always wondered, what does a cat gecko do with that tail? Pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so besides a tail, go ahead.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy how they have so much similarities to a cat. Like they have retractable claws. They wrap their tails around like cats do.
Nice.
They'll stay in the same spot on the same branch for hours all night long, just stalking their prey until they finally get it, just like cats do. It's crazy how similar they are, and they're so territorial as well too.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm guessing, like, well, you already said you don't separate. So do you like move your male to multiple females, or do you keep your one-to-ones?
Yeah, I have my main male who's like a super stripe, which I'm trying to create more super stripes. Is kind of like a project I've been working on.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I moved him with 2 different females that kind of have the same kind of patterning to create more of that with the Felines. And then with the dorsalis, since they have more of a different coloring, I've been getting like orange, that vibrant orange color in the babies when they're hatched, and they have that nice white line stripe as well with the bright green eyes. So a project, I have two separate projects with them as well, trying to create more of that vibrant orange with the babies.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I got the mom from a different person, and the dad from a different person, and that's what they created, that orange baby line. So I'm trying to see if I can line breed it and see if I can create more of that for
Very cool.
future.
Are people that work with these that you know of, are people sticking to to breeding these pure locales? Would people know, like, or is it like a, you know, I'm sure the CACA community is probably much smaller than a lot of the other communities, but is it common practice to keep specific locales with specific locales, or is just a cat gecko, and if you go out and buy them and breed them, you can just put any two locales together? Is it?
Yeah, it's frowned upon in the cat gecko community to try to hybridize the two locales.
Okay.
Because you want to keep them as pure as you can, because
Yeah,
in one
absolutely.
day we're not going to be able to have them come from the wild, and if not many
Absolutely.
people are breeding them.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Absolutely.
I haven't known anybody to try to breed the dorsalis and the felinus together, but I don't do that. I try to keep them separate, and then I just try to grow out more different colors and different patterns, since there's not really a morph.
Mm.
Um, I just try to make it, I guess, more different, rich in color and stuff, and try to come up with something new with each different locale. But
Nice.
yeah,
Nice. And
but
they're
there's
they're
like,
just noticeably different, right? Like say I was to go to a show and I saw, you know, probably wouldn't, but ran into maybe three breeders selling cat geckos, and I know nothing about geckos, but I know I want cat geckos. So I walk around to these three different tables and I grab three different cat geckos, two females and and a male. Would I be able to tell, like, when I got home, that I'd say I just impulse bought these things and I got home, would I be able to tell that there were different locales? Or would I
yeah.
just, like, I got three cat geckos?
Yes, the
You
main
can't.
one that you'll see a lot at shows are the Felines, that are the black eyes, and they have like the speckled brown rust color pattern. Some
Yeah.
will have some stripes, and some will just be patternless. And then the other
Okay.
locale is the dorsalis. They'll have the bright green eyes. I like them because they look like alien eyes, and they'll have like a maroon color, and sometimes they'll have like a dorsal pattern stripe. And they're a lot smaller than the Felines as well. So um, you can definitely tell the difference if you've researched them and you want to have them. But yeah.
Okay. So,
Okay.
so you said for the felinus, it's breeding is like 18, 18, 24. So what about for the dorsalis? Are you putting them in the same size enclosures, or you
Hmm.
put them in? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
they're the same weight, same age, waiting 2 years, and same enclosure. Yeah.
Are there any
Uh,
care differences between the locales?
No, they're the
No, right?
exact same, which is weird that they're subspecies, but they're just from a
I,
totally different area.
yeah,
So
yeah. Oh, and they might just become their own species after
yeah.
in a little while. Just they've done the same thing with like, well, they're working on it right now with like Strophosaurus tenacata. There's three different subspecies of them, but they're working on trying to make them into their own species, because one has silver eyes, one has red eyes, and I forgot what the color of the other eyes are. But yeah, they're doing stuff like that all the time. So taxonomist needs a job, so this is what they do.
Yep.
Interesting.
Uh, so for behavior wise, right? What kind of things? Because you said like the male makes noise. Now, do they always make noise, or is it that was just like one random instance right there?
That was just one random instance from the dorsalis. I've never heard that ever. It was like such a weird alarm sound. And the felinus males, they don't make any noise at all. Like, and you
Okay,
can, I feel like they're more handleable too than the dorsalis as well.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
What about for like mating wise? Is there any kind of courtship going on that you ever noticed?
I walked up here one time at, I think it was maybe 10 o'clock at night, and I turned the lights on and I caught one of them in the act. But that's the only
Okay.
time that I've ever seen them mating. And it's
Yeah.
just, they're just like regular geckos mating, but I haven't seen any courtship. I
Okay.
think
Like,
like the males kind of wave their tail if they're
yeah.
interested. But I've never observed that ever. And I got a
Okay.
video of it because I was like, I'm probably never gonna see this again. So
Right? Yeah.
That's
Because I was
cool.
gonna ask, is there any for like a female when she's like, no, I don't want to be mated with, what does she do?
I
If
think they
I've never
might just,
seen.
yeah, I've never seen it, but I'm sure they just run away or they
Yeah.
just take it. I don't know, like
Yeah.
Chihuahuas and
Well,
Cresties.
well, no, my female Chihuahua will try to bite that eye out. I've seen her try to do it. I had to
Mhm.
stick my finger in there because she had it like right there, and I'm like, no, stick my finger in there and like start moving it up and down, like get out of here. Like he already mated with her, so she's like, dude, I already got eggs in me, leave me alone.
Yeah,
So, and he tried to go again. Yeah, so that was a nerve
geckos
wracking
are
right there.
crazy.
Yeah, they are. They're some of them are just really violent.
You said the females are larger, right? The female cat geckos are larger than the males.
Yes, they're larger.
I find that with, I know it's not a said thing, but with my Chihuahuas, I have 30 now, 30 Chihuahuas, and all of my females are much big, not much, but they're obviously larger than all the males they're paired to. Hmm. I guess it's not technically a, even my crested geckos, not to be honest, not to be get sidetracked, but now that I think about it, most of my female crested geckos are much heavier than my males are.
Hmm.
Huh. I wonder if it's a gecko thing, just geckos in general. Females are bigger.
No, I mean my male Chihuahuas are bigger than my females. So
I was gonna say Jason breaks the mold. Jason will have the ones.
yeah, I
Yeah,
always yeah. Well, I got I just sold that pair off, but my male was like 82, 83 grams. Like he is a
Wow.
like they produce they produce very large
yeah. My
geckos too
males
because
anywhere that
my
big.
my customers will hit me up saying, hey, look at this, and like geckos less than a year old, like almost at a year hitting like 40 grams. So I think that their genetics are just to have bigger geckos. Like my other ones, there's not a crazy size difference, but with that other pair, there was a noticeable size difference. But
Do your
Oh, I,
do your Chihuahua females lose a lot of weight after they lay eggs? Because I have a
mine.
couple Chihuahuas and the females always like shrink after, and it takes months to get them back to full
it
size.
doesn't like I would say
Mine
yes,
don't.
they lose weight, but it's nothing that waxworms would that out. Every time after they lay their eggs, I'm always giving them waxworms full of calcium.
Hmm.
And they end up just putting that weight back on real quick, so their hips are not all sunken in or
Yeah,
tails
yeah.
sunken in, things like that. Yeah, that's what I would normally do whenever my Chihuahuas drop their eggs, because yeah, yeah, whenever they drop, god dang, yeah, they do look pretty skinny. But like I
Hmm.
said, waxworms, waxworms, waxworms,
Okay.
and then even like their diet, I'll go ahead and I'll get a bunch of roaches, like boom, put the roaches in the freezer real quick so they'll stop moving for a second, put those into the blender with some diet and let
Hmm.
that go. And so they're still getting a lot more protein, a lot more nutrients. So that's what I do. And
See, part
they
of me
generally
wants to run an
stay.
experiment. I feel guilty, but when I got into these things, it was like I dreaded it. I bought every one I have, 30 of them, bought them all as hatchlings, raised them up 3.5 years before I paired them. I dreaded it. It was like this thing that I swore I would avoid at all costs. And despite popular belief or what anyone says, my right hand to my God, I have not experienced a wavy tail, a sunken hip, or any type of weight loss other than the normal loss of the weight of two eggs, obviously. But I almost, with how common it is and how much I hear about it, I almost feel like I have to at this juncture experiment and experience it so I can learn how to bounce them back if I had to. I've spent so much time learning and trying how to avoid it that I've never gotten to acquire the knowledge I would need to fix it, if that makes any sense. It seems like a super common issue, like everybody, I'm probably maybe out of 2 3 people that I talk to in the Chihuahua world that has never experienced it. Everyone else is like, you're lying or you didn't notice it. And I'm like, listen, I'm too rude to lie. I'm too rude. I got no reason to lie to anybody. I will go above and beyond, like I said, with these crazy diets. I feed bugs probably 5 days a week. I do things that people don't do to try to avoid that. Even with my males, I hate to say, but I'm always offering something. I give them the best opportunity and options that I can to make choices, healthy choices themselves, if that makes any sense either. I always give them the ability to eat. There's in every enclosure, there's always snails, there's always roaches, there's always crickets available 24/7 in every Chihuahua enclosure I have. And I don't know if it necessarily matters. I don't know if I've gotten lucky. Like I said, I've only gotten eggs at this juncture out of three of my pairs, and none four. One pair of mainlands actually laid some fertile eggs, but nothing out of her either, man. She looked as healthy as the day after I collected the eggs as she did before. To be honest, I didn't even know she was gravid. I had no idea. That's how good she looked. I had no clue she was gravid. And who knows? I love the species, though. I'm totally like I can go on for hours about that, and I want to steal your shine. So,
I think that with Chihuahuas, the females, I think need to be wait a little bit longer to breed, like maybe 3 to 4 years,
kept them up
and
to
then you'll
three
get
years.
consistent eggs with them.
3 years I waited. 3.5 years I waited for all my Chihuahuas before I paired them. Now I know there's debate out there, and people say you can breed them. I mean, Rhacodactylus says they can breed at 18 months. I know people that breed them at 2 years. I know people that wait maybe longer, I guess. I just when I got into it, I was super, super cautious, especially with some of the money I spent. I spent, a significant amount of money on some of these Chihuahuas that I have, and I just and I grew attached to every single one of them. I still do. Not a day goes by I don't hold every single one of the 30 Chihuahuas in my collection. I hold them all, and they're every single one of them is puppy dog tame. I just didn't see the point in rushing it. I knew it was a forever
Mhm.
thing. So I kind of was just like, all right, well, the common consensus is 3 years. I got lychees that I'm waiting 5 years for. I'm in no rush to pair them. Just wait. And I did. Wound up being, like I said, about 3.5 years until I got everything finally paired up and made it. I had a couple issues. Jason, I have two females. One of them is 102 grams. She's
Wow.
102 grams. She is a complete, her name is Gunner. She is a complete monster. I try to put three males in with her, and it got to the point where I started to think, you ever see the geese, like there'll be videos on YouTube of like a goose that kind of like bonds with the fisherman, like, and then a goose will try to like approach her and she attacks the other goose, but she'll like be all lovey-dovey with the fisherman type thing. Like I swear she thinks she's a human. Like she thinks that I'm her boyfriend. Like any male I put in that tank, she complete savage, like complete
Oh.
savage, puffed up on her legs, barking, squonking, chasing males around in circles. Like I'd have to stay up all night till I finally got a mail to her all night with a flashlight, talking to her. I sound like a weirdo even saying this, but I have to talk to her. I could talk to her in this baby voice, and it calms her down. But she's like, I don't know, she's something, boy. She's something. She's Gunner is a piece of work, boy. But I finally got her to accept one of these males, and I haven't gotten any eggs from her yet. And I'm super curious what's going on with the size thing, because I have two, not from the same lines, but from the same breeder,
Mhm.
and they're both, like I said, at any given day, well over 100 grams. I mean, they look like, if you look at some of the pictures I have of her posted, other than the length of the tail, you'd think it was a lychee. Like she's that big. She's a big beast. She was 80 grams at 9 months old. This thing, she's just something. All
Well,
right, I
fingers
don't know if
crossed
I'm
for you.
right. I want to see what's up. People have told me, Jason has mentioned before, I think Michael over at Chihuahua Chamber, he's got some large lines going on. I guess he's got some projects going with some that are over 100 grams. So it's not a common thing, but it's definitely rare. It's definitely not common. Common size. But there's, from what I gather, a few people out there that have got some pretty damn big Chihuahuas.
Mm.
Mm.
Oh yeah. So with the cat geckos, do you are well? for future projects, right? Do you plan on bringing in more wild caught to get fresh blood in?
I was thinking of it. I I'm not sure. I just want to see. This is like the second generation that I'm working on with the patterning.
Hmm.
But yeah, I might get a couple on the next spring import to see, and then mix them up with the hatchlings that I have now that I'm going to grow up, to see if I can get anything out of them, different kind of gene. Or that'd be cool
Okay,
if I can get like an albino just to pop out. But
that's what everybody wants.
I know.
Hello.
Right? I was just gonna ask you had mentioned you were breeding for these oranges and you said there's really no morphs of any any known morphs, but do you know of anything within the cat geckos that's different out there? Is anybody working with anything that's maybe a gene, or is there what's the news on that in the cat gecko world?
I don't think anybody is working with them. There's one Facebook group, Cat Gecko group, that's been there, I think, since 2011, and that like no one really posts in there that they're working
Mhm.
on anything. So I might be the
Mm,
only one trying to do like
that's
projects with
cool.
them.
That's
Mhm.
very cool. Very cool for you. No, that's the,
Oh,
you
yeah.
could literally change the game yourself with a hypo for, to be quite honest, these oranges may pan out to be just that, a
Mhm.
hypo of some sort, and just like that, you can change the popularity and price of these animals all by yourself. You can literally, that's cool with species of geckos like that. I mean, it's pretty much, I can't really speak for Jason, but guys and people like us in general that like these rare geckos,
Mhm.
it's the probability of us being able to innovate or change or discover something new as opposed to these other geckos that have went through the ball python gauntlet, if you will. Like, we can still find something new, we can still contribute with these new or less known species.
Yeah,
That's, I wish you the best
I'm
of luck.
hoping that they keep that orange color as they get into adulthood. So I have two or three right now that I'm growing up, and they have that vibrant orange, but I'm hoping that they keep it through adulthood
Is
to
it
see.
sticking around? Are you noticing, what are you noticing with it thus
It's
far?
well, mostly it's on like the top of their head and like the base of their tail, that it's like super bright
Mm,
orange. I have a couple of videos on my Instagram of some of the
okay.
babies. Um, but yeah, that it's just like a lot of people have like never seen them before with that vibrant orange. So I was like, cool, I hope I can hatch out some more of these. And I do have
I hope
separate
you do.
pairings. I don't have to, inbreed them. They're going to be all line bred with different parents. So
Yeah,
they'll be.
Nice.
that's good.
Very
That sounds
nice.
like a
Wish you
good
the best of
protocol
luck.
right there.
I really do. I'd love to see you, come across something. That'd be very cool for the hobby, very cool for the species.
I would love to get those silver eyes though. Uh,
Yeah, we always got that one thing like, damn, I really want to try to get those, but
yeah.
you can't. Like for me, it's like, man, I would love to get a couple different versions of those Tanacatas or some Stropharis ciliaris aberrants. Like there's only like maybe one or two people in the U.S. that have the aberrants, and I don't think anybody has the other color phase, the other eye color phases of those Tanacatas. So just because Australia is just never going to open up.
Right.
Yeah. So
The silver eye.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to
Go ahead.
ask the silver eyes again. It's an import thing. Like, you can't get them because there's no exporting of them, or what was the
Yeah,
reason again?
they're from the warmer part of Malaysia in the Johor region. And yeah, it's illegal to export anything from that area. I guess it stopped maybe, I think it was like 2010. It might have been a little bit later. So all the breeders that I talked to had them before. They had tons of them. They were breeding them out fine, and some of them sold off their collections, and then no one started working with them, so they kind of just dissipated. And it's a
Yeah.
shame because they're like so cool looking. Like, how
Uh,
you have a gecko with silver eyes? Why do you not want to keep that going? So
Yeah.
Someone probably found the green-eyed ones and thought, the silver eyes were so prevalent that they were like, "Oh, let's go to the green eyes." And
mhm.
just like that, someone forgets about a gecko. The CITES
Yeah.
kicks in, exporting stops, and there we go. The hobby loses its
Yeah.
species, man. It's that
Yeah.
simple, man. It's one of the reasons we encourage people to work with these less known species. We're not going to get them in the hobby again if we let certain things go, guys.
Yeah, especially just because it doesn't have a morph doesn't mean it's not any more special than that one with a morph,
And
right?
Right.
natural
And
patterns are some of the coolest things in my
yeah,
collection. There's nothing more I love than natural cryptic patterns, man. These animals evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to blend into a specific environment. What's cooler than that? You genetically manhandling the things and making something? That's cool. It's fine and dandy, but you got to give credit where credit is due, man. There is so much beauty in these natural patterns and camouflages.
oh yeah,
Yeah, cat geckos were discovered in 1864. Like it's they from years and years ago. It's crazy like how reptiles have evolved so much. There's
Oh
just
yeah,
yeah.
so many
definitely.
other things out there that we don't even know of probably in the wild.
Absolutely,
Um,
I tell you, they
absolutely,
keep
there
on
is.
discovering new Cerdadactylus to this
I was
day.
just gonna say,
Like
yeah.
300, I think they're up to like 340 right now, different
wow.
species. Yeah, and they just discovered one, like I said, a few years ago. Just a random gecko jumped on someone's backpack. This gecko's different from this gecko. New species. Boom. This is like, damn.
Especially a lot of them are nocturnal, you know. How many people are, I mean, technically, I mean, I guess people do, but how many people are out in the forest at nighttime in some real rural jungle looking for a new species? Now, granted, I'm sure there's people that do, you know, so I don't want to hear any crap from anybody. But
It's
my
people that's
point
their
is,
job, not no random
yeah,
people.
again, not trying to
Yeah.
ruffle anyone's feathers, but my point is it's how many people are out there looking for the unknown. Very few compared to the people that are looking for the known, you know? So it's,
Yeah.
and being nocturnal species, again, I'd imagine there's a world of things out there we have yet to discover.
Oh yeah. So did you have like a mentor when you started this cat gecko journey?
Good question.
No mentor. I just did my own research. Like I said
Okay,
before,
that's good.
the Geckos Unlimited, and the Facebook group are the only two things out there that have valuable information. And I just kind of based off of that and been doing good ever since. So
So like if you run into a problem, like who are you? Do you reach? You don't reach out to anybody like, hey, I'm starting to have this kind of issue. Have you ever ran into that? Do you got any people like that in your
I'll
corner?
post. Yeah, I'll post on the Facebook group. The
Hmm.
moderator Ethan, he's I think from Riverside Reptiles. I don't know if he's still. He has probably cat geckos as pets, but I don't think he breeds them anymore. But he's the go-to person to go from back in the 2000s as well. So I would ask him. I asked him about the silver eyes too, and he's trying to get them as well. But yeah, he's the main person that I would ask on there if I needed some help with anything. It was like
Okay.
the shedding and the mineral water, all that stuff I asked earlier when I first started because I didn't know anything about it.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's very helpful on there.
Nice.
This kind of piggybacks that question, but how from someone that works with crested geckos, you know how toxic that community can be. How is overall the cat gecko community? Like how do you guys stick together? Do you work together? I know it kind of goes hand in hand with what you just said in that question, but how would you compare the cat gecko community to the new cal, or I don't even say new cal, but crested gecko community?
It's a very small community. I think there might be like 1,000 uh,
That's
followers on the Facebook group. But yeah, everyone's cordial with each other, ask questions. It's like a small community, so there's not many people out there that still know about them.
mm. Do you
So yeah,
find a lot of new people coming in? Do you find
yeah,
that you guys are getting any?
yeah.
'Cause I see there seems to be.
We sold quite a few of our baby cat geckos this summer to just people that want them as pets.
Cool.
And I always include a care sheet with everyone that I sell. That way they kind of know how to take care of them. Um,
Awesome.
but yeah, a lot of them are just people that want them as pets.
Yeah, it seems like they're taking off in popularity again. I feel like a few, like when I don't know when, but maybe when I was a teenager or something, I feel like they used to be kind of popular, or I've seen them before, and then they disappeared, and then it's like Now here we are, and it seems to me like there's a lot of talk about cat geckos, and I'm not sure as to why or who started it or what's happened, but I feel like over the last maybe even 2 years, the species has been revigorated in the hobby. Like they're a hot thing. There's people are talking cat geckos.
Yeah, they were very popular in the early 2000s. I try to post as much
Hey,
as
there
I
I was,
can about
teenager,
them so that people will know on my Instagram and Facebook. I post all the time. That way people can be like, oh, that's so interesting. They get more and more
Oh yeah,
people to like them.
Cool,
nice.
that's awesome. Without people like you, they're truth be told, species like this would not get the recognition they deserve. You know, somebody has to be showing them off and talking about them and letting people know how cool they actually are. You know, you're a vital part of the future of these geckos.
Oh yeah.
I
So
try.
let me ask you, Monique, can you give us 3 good tips on successfully keeping these geckos for some like a first time person that's just getting a cat gecko? 3 good tips that would help them out.
Okay. Well, these are really easy to care for as long as husbandry has been met. So you want to make sure that you have a big enough enclosure for them and that it's semi-bioactive or fully bioactive. Make sure that you're using reverse osmosis water only, and that make sure you're just not over calcifying your feeders. Those are the 3
Great.
things. If you just follow those 3 things, I mean, they're just pretty easy pet to maintain, in my opinion.
Nice.
Awesome.
So I just have one more question, but Ant, go ahead
Oh,
and do your
and if
question.
you're a night owl, that's when you'll see them the most. So, if like yeah, if you're up all night, then they're the perfect gecko for you because you'll always see them.
I got plenty of those. I got geckos that refuse to come out during the daytime. Like my stropharis, if I feed them, they're gonna eat. Like if the light's still on, they're still going after food. But I got other geckos. No, I gotta wait for lights go out before I even think about feeding them
Yeah.
because they just don't. They won't move. I got like I said, my Haemophilus fasciata. They won't move at all. Cave geckos, they won't do anything. My Euryplatus, nope, won't hear no movement until it's nighttime, until all those lights are off, and it's usually like hours after the lights is off. Then they'll start moving around.
Yeah, we have 2 pairs of crocodile skinks, and I never see them ever. They never even come out during the day. It's like really like early in the morning, and then they'll hide. So
Yeah, nice. Go ahead, Ant.
Well, I guess if I had one last question, man, from someone like yourself that works with both species, if a new keeper came to your table and their options were crested gecko or cat gecko, how would you sell the cat gecko to a new keeper?
um,
What would you say to get some? What would you say to this is, or maybe they're not the best bet for a first time keeper, but what would your selling points be for a cat gecko to a new keeper?
well, the cat geckos are they're very sensitive. So I probably wouldn't recommend them to a beginner, but maybe more of an intermediate to advanced keeper. But if someone's really interested and they really want to try to have them, I would just say to handle them as minimum as possible. And I guess just like I said before, I would think if you're really into looking at something if you're into cats and you think of something a really cool, amazing gecko that you've never seen before that has these cool qualities that like to hunt and stuff like that, I would say that that'd be a good pet for them to have compared to a crested gecko. Crested geckos, of course, jump a lot, and you have to jump from hand to hand. But a cat gecko, they actually will crawl up your arm really slowly. So yeah, I would recommend if they like to that, but they don't like to be handled as often. So, but you can handle them. They just don't like it as much.
Awesome.
Nice. That works for me. I was like, I don't like I said, me and Ant, we had this conversation before. I don't handle my animals like that. Like I'll do my health checks, but after that, they just kind of do their thing. So like I said, I got plenty of geckos that I don't really touch. Like I have like the Cerdodactylus striatus. Those are speed demons. Those are like day gecko times 1.5 on their speed. Like they're ridiculous. Like you blink, they're gone. So it's like, okay, not gonna mess with y'all. But like I said, Chihuahuas, yeah, pick them up, check them out, make sure they're all good. Uh, Sometimes with my Stropharis, I could do it. They don't really care to be held, but you know, what else? Cave geckos, I don't even mess with them. Like they just stay in their caves. Like they do not, like I said, they don't come out until it's pitch black. There's no noise going on, so it's like, all right, cool. But so for my final question, I have, what have been your biggest failures during your time in this hobby, and what have you learned from those?
With the cat geckos or just overall
Just
in general?
Overall in general.
I would say just sticking to a certain projects and not getting like a lot overwhelming with too many of the same thing. I would say, like, because we started with like a few crested geckos, and now we have like over 200, and it is overwhelming if you're like a 2-person team to get like cleaning and feeding and all that stuff done. So I would say I would maybe have a little bit more of a condensed collection than having a huge collection.
Nice. Yeah.
And
You hear that,
I'm keeping the cat geckos in a small collection as well. So I don't start that with the crusteds.
Oh yeah. Cool. Oh, cool. Well, like I said, Onig, it was definitely a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you gave out some really good information I think everybody needed to hear, you know, especially on these geckos that, you know, people always, like I said, always had hesitations on because they weren't really sure. They heard like they had some kind of health issues, especially with the water. I think, like I said, I'm sure you changed a lot of minds today. You changed my mind. I know I'm looking at getting some cat geckos pretty soon. So, you know,
I'll hope to have more in the springtime to sell. I'm holding it back a lot though, so I could work on my projects.
Oh, nice. Yeah, like I said, I'll probably be hitting you up in the springtime to go ahead and get me some cat geckos. Like I said, it's been on my list. Like I said, I got these Cerdodactylus nebulosus that they're like a little mini version of cat geckos. The way they angle their bodies and everything. So I was like, okay, cool. I think I could do this. And like I said, I think they come from India. But like my other ones come from Sri Lanka. So I think I can go ahead and get all that stuff down. But like I said, pleasure having you on. Just stay on after a little bit, and so we could talk about a couple things. And you got any closing remarks?
I just would like to thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
I think I hope you realize how vital you are to the future of these geckos in the hobby. Just sharing this information, making yourself available for other people to learn, you breeding them and working with them. Everything you're doing is amazing. They're amazing contributions for the future and success of the species. And on behalf of everybody that owns them, may own them, wants them, I thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like you to maybe share, you know, your Facebook page, your Instagram, if you have a store where people can buy these things from you when they, you know, I know you said that you may have some available in the spring, but just give our followers and fans out there maybe one last spiel on where they can find you, how they can find you, and you know, that stuff.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. Just look up Evolver Reptiles. Instagram, same way. And we have our website is evolverreptiles.com. And if you go on there, I have a section for cat geckos with a detailed care sheet that I made up. And we also wrote an article for the Reptiles magazine that was published. Yeah, like I think it was like 2 magazines ago. So if you have the magazine, you can read all the article in there that we wrote for them as well.
Very cool, guys. Jason, the tech master, we're gonna have him.
I'll put all that in the show notes. No, especially that article. Yeah, I think, like I said, all that stuff's gonna be beneficial to this hobby. You know, for people keeping all these geckos alive and not being so hesitant on working with them. You know, like I said, I think that's half probably half the reason why people don't work with other reptiles besides like the cresties and all the industry standards, because just the lack of information and the hesitation on, I don't want to spend my money and kill this thing. But sounding like from you is it's pretty easy. You did some research, boom, next you know you're producing. So
just do your own research.
Oh yeah,
That's
definitely.
the key.
Oh yeah. Well, definitely. Everybody have a great night. Like I said, we'll see you guys next Sunday. Said have a good night. If you're watching football, go whatever team you got.
Dallas. Try being a Dallas fan right now. It's like being a Mets fan. My world is just getting pooped on.
Don't worry. I was like, I ain't got no football team. I just roll with whatever my mom likes. She likes Philly, so I'll go with Philly. So, All right. Well, everybody have a great night. We'll see y'all next Sunday.
Later, guys. Be safe. Enjoy your week.
Oh, all right. We are all done. So, like I said, thank you again for hopping on.